Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Their Excellencies, the Right Honourable Dame Patsy Reddy, Governor-General of New Zealand, and Sir David Gascoigne.
E ngā mana, e ngā reo, e ngā iwi o ngā hoe whā. Tēnei aku mihi mahana ki a koutou. Nau mai haere mai rā ki te whare kawana. Kia ora tātou katoa. I specifically acknowledge our kuia, Rānui Ngārimu, our kaumātua, Joe Harawera, tēnā kōrua. And I offer a very special welcome to today's honours recipients. It's a real pleasure to host this investiture ceremony and bring together 12 honour recipients along with their family and friends to recognise the contributions they've made to our country. As Governor-General, I have the authority and the privilege, on behalf of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, to hold an investiture for her and to confer royal honours, our nation's highest honours, on individuals who've made exceptional contributions to their communities and our nation. Hosting an investiture ceremony is one of the most important duties I perform as Governor-General, as it enables me to recognise and thank them on behalf of all New Zealanders for helping to make Aotearoa New Zealand a better place to live. Some recipients have a national public profile, others will be well known in their own communities, but what they have in common is the positive impact they've had on the economic, environmental, social or cultural well-being of our nation. Catriona McLeod will now read the citations for each recipient and invite them to come forward and receive their insignia. Ladies and gentlemen, as each recipient comes forward, I invite you to join me in thanking and congratulating them for their service to our country.
Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of an Officer of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Ms. Scylla Askew of Featherston for services to music. Scylla Askew is an arts administrator, musician and editor. She was Executive Director of the Centre for New Zealand Music, Sounds, which promotes music by New Zealand composers. She was the driving force behind Sounds Online, which transformed the Sounds website into a state-of-the-art resource. She worked to develop the Sounds NSO composer readings, the Sounds Contemporary Award, the Sounds Right Guides for Schools, and Resound, a library of recorded music by New Zealand composers. She was vice president of the International Association of Music Information Centres. She has been a board member of several music organisations. She's published books celebrating composers Jack Boddy and Douglas Lilburn. Ms. Askew helped establish the Pocket Opera of Wellington and the Lilburn Residents Trust, where she was a trustee and later chair. Ms. Sela Askew, please come forward. Mrs. Joan Harnett Kindley of Wanaka for services to netball and the real estate industry. Joan Harnett Kindley represented Canterbury in netball from 1960 to 1974, including 6 years as captain. She played more than 100 matches for the Silver Ferns, including 26 matches across 3 World Cups. She was a member of the Canterbury Netball Executive and coached club netball for 20 years. She was a member of the Canterbury Westland District Real Estate Executive Committee, president of the Canterbury Westland and Otago Districts Committees, the first woman appointed to the Real Estate Council, and the first woman awarded a fellowship and life membership to the Real Estate Institute of New Zealand. She was an inaugural member of the Real Estate Authority. Mrs. Harnett Kindley was a national judge of Master Builders House of the Year and is a patron of the New Zealand Masters Games. Mrs. Joan Harnett Kindley, please come forward. Dr. Brian Turner of Aotearoa for services to literature and poetry. Dr. Brian Turner writes poetry, non-fiction books, television scripts, articles and columns, and has received many of New Zealand's top awards in literature. He's written biographies on Sir Colin Meads, Anton Oliver, Glenn Turner, and Josh Kronfeld. He has published 13 collections of poetry, most recently selected poems. His poetry often focuses on central Otago landscapes and environmentalism. He was a founding member and subsequently chairman of the Central Otago Environmental Society. His best-selling books, Into the Wider World and Elemental, focused on an appreciation and concern for New Zealand's natural environment. He received the University of Otago Robert Burns Fellowship in 1984 and was Te Mate Estate New Zealand Poet Laureate from 2003 to 2005. Dr. Turner was awarded a University of Otago honorary doctorate in 2011. Dr. Brian Turner, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Dr. Jeremy Hill of Palmerston North, for services to the dairy industry and scientific research. Dr. Jeremy Hill is the only New Zealander to have served as President and Chairman of the International Dairy Federation. He was a founding governor for the Global Dairy Agenda for Action on Sustainability and chaired its advisory board. He is Fonterra Chief Science and Technology Officer and has worked with New Zealand universities and the science and government sectors. His studies into nutrition and the proteins in milk contributed to the formation of the currently successful A2 Milk Corporation. His research output includes more than 100 published works, and he's made numerous presentations at international science conferences. Dr. Hill is Adjunct Professor, Sustainable Nutrition, Bernadette Institute, Massey University. Dr. Jeremy Hill, please come forward. Mrs. Jenny Noble of Tauranga for services to health, particularly research for rare diseases. Jenny Noble works as Field Officer Administrator for Lysosomal Diseases New Zealand, providing support, clinical care and research into a particularly rare group of diseases. She helped to establish the New Zealand Organisation for Rare Disorders and has served on the board of the International Society for Monocytosis and Related Diseases, ISMRD. She has been the central fundraiser and program organizer of 5 ISMRD conferences. Her fundraising efforts led to a partnership between ISMRD and other advocacy groups and foundations to provide a large grant for research into mucolipidosis. Mrs. Noble co-authored an article in the Journal of Inherited Metabolic Diseases in 2002. Mrs. Jenny Noble, please come forward. Tofilo Bernadette Pereira of Auckland for services to the Pacific community and women. Tofilo Bernadette Pereira is National President of Pacifica Incorporated. She was President of the Manukau branches of Pacifica and the National Council of Women. She was the Pacific region's youth representative on the Commonwealth Youth Programme's governing body. She represented the Pacific countries and territories at the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women and led the largest delegation of Pacific women to the UN Fourth World Global Conference. She volunteers for the Cultural Advisory Committee of the Pacific Medical Association and the Korean Positive Aging Charitable Trust. Tofilo Bernadette is a member of the Consumer Network of the Health Quality and Safety Commission. Tofilo Bernadette Pereira, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the Queen's Service Medal, Mrs. Robin Bissett of Christchurch for services to the community. Robin Bissett is a member and former president of the Rotary Club of Christchurch. She was part of a Rotary committee that raised more than $1.3 million for children's charities. She is a board member of the Burwood Academy of Independent Living, which helps people with spinal cord injuries. She's a board member of the Canterbury Club and the club's first female president. Mrs. Bissett is a committee member of Friends of the Nurses Memorial Chapel at Christchurch Hospital, a member of the St George's Hospital Inc. Society, and a member of the St George's Hospital Advisory Committee. Mrs. Robin Bissett, please come forward. Mr. Chandu Darjee of Auckland for services to the Indian community and sport. Chandu Darjee has sat on the Auckland Indian Sports Club Executive Committee for 33 years, serving on the Auckland Hockey Association Junior Management Committee as club representative to the Auckland Cricket Association Board of Control and as club delegate to the New Zealand Indian Sports Association. He has managed sports teams and coordinated the Golden Oldies Hockey Tournament. He's deputy chairman of the Mahatma Gandhi Charitable Trust. He was president of the Auckland Retail Fruiterers Association Executive Committee. Mr. Darjee is a member and former president of the Auckland Indian Association Executive Committee and the West Haven Rotary Club. Mr. Chandu Darjee, please come forward. Mr. Bill Sharpe of Lower Hutt for Services to Youth. Bill Sharpe established a support program for teenage boys in 1997 that continues to this day as the Futures program. His program supports students who are seen to be slipping through the cracks of society through physical, spiritual, and emotional well-being services. Twice a week, he begins an exercise session in the morning for the students and provides each of them with a breakfast, followed by a mentoring session. He has personally helped dozens of young men. Mr. Sharpe has given more than 30 years of service to Wellington sports clubs and more than 15 years to athletics coaching. Mr. Bill Sharpe, please come forward. Mr. Terrence Tawira of Pereira for services to the Pacific community. Pastor Terrence Tawira founded the Victory Church in Pereira, where he remains as minister and as moderator for Victory Church throughout the Pacific and Australia. He has represented Pacific communities in a range of national advisory groups. He is a board member of the Pacific Health Plus and a member of the Strong Pacific Families Pereira group. He helped to establish the Strong Pacific Families Food Collection Drive and the Seeds of Hope project. He runs fitness classes within his church. Pastor Tawira was a founding member of the Pereira Church Ministers Forum and has been vice chairperson and treasurer. Mr. Terrence Tawira, please come forward. Ms. Marie Taylor of Napier for services to horticulture and native revegetation. Marie Taylor owns and manages Plant Hawke's Bay Limited, a native plant nursery supplying the Hawke's Bay revegetation market with eco-sourced wholesale plants. Her work has contributed to the survival of rare native species. She is founder and chair of the Hawke's Bay Botanical Group and a trustee of Puahanui, a large area of native bush. She was part of the implementation planning group who wrote the Hawke's Bay Biodiversity Action Plan 2017-2020. Ms. Taylor was a regional representative on the QE2 National Trust and is a board member of New Zealand Plant Producers Incorporated, the nursery industry body. Ms. Marie Taylor, please come forward. Mr. Jim Thomas of Blenheim for services to victim support and the community. Jim Thomas was employed with Victim Support Marlborough as a service coordinator and has continued as a volunteer, including in governance roles. He volunteers with Restorative Justice Marlborough and assisted the Blenheim Police to set up community patrols. He's been involved with Lions since 1983 and the Blenheim Lions Club since 1990, serving as president, treasurer, and zone chairman. He has chaired 3 conventions and was involved in the Blenheim Lions Firewood Project and Predator Trapping Project. Mr. Thomas was a founding member of the Marlborough Stadium 2000 Trust and has supported the Raurangi Golf Club. Mr. Jim Thomas, please come forward. Your Excellency, the investiture is concluded.
Our honours system is our nation's highest public affirmation of outstanding individual achievement. It reinforces values and behaviours that sustain our communities and help our nation thrive and prosper. And these include service, courage, manaakitanga, and the pursuit of knowledge and excellence. By using their talents to make ours a better society, whether by service to their communities or by their leadership in diverse fields of endeavour or their commitment to excellence in their own area of expertise, our recipients have set a fine example to others. To the recipients, it's been a real pleasure to hear your stories today. You've demonstrated determination, compassion, and commitment in your daily lives. In your own way, each of you has helped make Aotearoa New Zealand a better place to live. Your actions and the stories we've heard reflect the spirit of the words of Nelson Mandela when he said, "What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It's what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead." On behalf of all New Zealanders, I thank you for all you have done to support our communities and our nation, whether by dedicating your lives to the public good, achieving distinction in your chosen field, or inspiring others with your leadership. Please wear your insignia with pride, knowing that your contributions are recognised and valued, and others are inspired by your example. Thank you, everyone. That almost brings to a close the formal part of today's ceremony. But before we break for refreshments, can I ask you to stand and join me in singing our national anthem?